What a week. The Packers fall 31-29 to the Vikings. Before I kind of start breaking everything down, hats off to the Vikings. They obviously had a great game plan coming into the game. They executed. They took care of the ball when they needed to. They put points on the board when they needed to, and they stifled our offense, especially early on. I think it was obviously a tale of two halves, but they came into the game very prepared. We're going to talk all about it. It's never fun to talk about a loss, but I think it's important to talk about losses because you need to understand where things went wrong, and without dealing with losses, you can't enjoy wins. So, let's get into it. Like what happened on Sunday. So I know I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, and I think the biggest thing is the missed opportunities. We've talked about this, I feel like, every week. Last week wasn't so bad. I felt like the game was a pretty flawless game last week. I think the only issue that we really had was penalties, which is also a reoccurring issue. But if we're talking about some missed opportunities from this week, and I should preface this, I understand you're not going to make every single play every week. You're always going to have missed opportunities. The problem that we're seeing is that a lot of these missed opportunities the Packers are running into are very costly. Not last week, but against the Colts, we saw Quay Walker drop an interception, which would have ended that final drive before it really even got going. Week one, we saw plenty of missed opportunities, whether it's not capitalizing on the red zone, penalties, such like that. This week is really no different. We saw McDuffie drop an interception on that first drive that really could have set the tone for the game. If you can get that interception and go down and put some points on the board, whether it's 3 or 7, does that really change momentum starting out the game? It felt like the Vikings, we dropped that interception and then they capitalized on a 3rd and 14, and you're thinking, oh boy, here we go. It's going to be one of those days. And it was. So we have McDuffie dropping that. And just drops in general by the offense. We saw Wicks dropping a touchdown later on in the game, hit him right in the chest, right on a 4th down play, hit him right in the chest, dropped it. That resulted in obviously us not getting any points. First drive, he dropped that ball. It was a little low by Love. I'm not putting all the blame on Wicks by any means. Hit him in the, he had his hands on it, dropped that, which would have probably, at least picked up the first down. If not, resulted in the Packers scoring a touchdown. Unfortunately, he drops it. We attempt a field goal. We miss the field goal. You have the deflection by Musgrave, which resulted in the ball changing trajectory. Dobbs misguided where it was going to be, misses the catch, and then bobbles it right into a defender's hands. That was another one that was like, backbreaker. All of these things are just resulting in momentum being lost and the Vikings capitalizing. And once again, Vikings did their job. I'm not, they get paid to make plays too. So I'm not saying like, hey, it's all because the Packers are at fault. Minnesota's making plays. That's just how it goes. We obviously had 2 bad missed kicks. We'll talk about those more. And then penalties. 8 penalties for 68 yards. 1 coming before halftime, which really could have really made things bad by taking a ball at like the 2-yard line. And then you got that penalty by Matt that pushed us way back. Ultimately, we're still able to score a touchdown with Jaden Reed. But that's a costly time to have one of those penalties. I don't disagree with LaFleur. He was wanting a timeout. He was trying to call a timeout. It felt like the ref looked at him while he's calling a timeout and just completely ignores it. So, those are just some of the missed opportunities that we're looking at, right? There's more. You can always count like minor ones, but those are like kind of the key ones that jumped out at me. Starting out the game, when we got the report that Jaire was missing and we're without Carrington, I knew it was going to be a tough game, right? You're already coming in and playing a tough team, and now you have a team that is short-staffed, if you will. with Eric Stokes, which is fine. But then you also have Ballantyne trying to cover, in Addison or Jefferson, and then Nixon as well, who's been playing stronger, I would say, is more of like a nickel corner as opposed to being the guy that's covering those top receivers. So it was a tough assignment just to even start things off, and Minnesota capitalized on that. They knew that was a weakness, and they took care of it. That's how it goes. But along with Jaire, we also saw Watson go for a ball earlier on in the game. At the time, I thought it was a hospital ball thrown by Love. I thought it was at the time, I thought it was a really bad throw thrown by Love. Obviously, anytime you have an interception, it's probably not the best read. But what I didn't realize until I saw a breakdown by Andy Herman of Packaday, which he has a lot of great content. I'd recommend anyone check him out. Really, Minnesota's defense was just studying and prepared. Their linebacker was supposed to drop back further. He kept an eye up on Jordan Love rather than continue to progress back. And he ended up just kind of coming down on it where Love wasn't expecting it. No one was expecting it on the Packers offense. And then Love also had pressure coming in his face, and no one picked up the pressure. So he didn't have time to second guess the read. He made the read. Fortunately, it wasn't the right one at this point, but Watson still went for the ball, still went for the play. Didn't look like a good, ideal situation for him. And obviously we saw that with an injury, high ankle sprain for Watson. And as fans, I know it's tough, right? We see these guys get injured. And sometimes they're guys that we see get injured numerous times, where they're on the injury report multiple times. The Watsons, the Jaires. I know when I posted the update that Jaire was going to be out, I saw a lot of people like, oh my God, this pansy. Oh, this guy's always missing. This guy, all he does is talk. He never plays. And I understand the frustration, right? A lot of people who comment like that are fans from like Lombardi's era or like the 70s, where it's like, you played through it all. That was part of it. It's like the toughness, right? That's part of football. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on what side you're looking at it, it's not Lombardi's era anymore. The NFL is a completely different world. The NFL is a business. The players are investments for the teams. The players probably want to play. I can't imagine they want to sit around and twirl their thumbs. Everyone hated on Bakhtiari for the longest time because he was out. I guarantee he's not saying, oh, I got paid, so I'm good to just coast. He wants to be out there. Those guys feel bad that they're not out there. However, the Packers, in a lot of situations, have been extremely conservative with shutting injuries down. If there's even a chance that a guy could really re-aggravate it or make it worse, odds are they're not going to play them. I have a feeling that's probably what we saw with Jaire. It's a business decision. If it means losing Jaire for 1 or 2 games rather than losing him for the rest of the season or worse, it makes sense for them to do that. They're paying this guy a lot of money. I mean, he has a cap hit of $24 million this year, and he has 2 more years on his contract after that. The team wants him around. They want to get their return on their investment. They're not going to force him out there, even if it means putting the team in a worse situation. Now, I know fans will be like, oh, these players don't deserve that much money. They don't deserve that much money. Well, the Packers made $650 million last year. And as much as I love Mark Murphy, I'm not going to Packer games and buying Packers merchandise for Mark Murphy. I support the team and the players that are going out there. And if they're bringing in $650 million in revenue, the players deserve the money. Plain and simple. They're the ones that are putting their bodies on the line week in and week out. They're obviously not going to get 100% of that 650, but they deserve that money. They're the reason the fans are at Lambeau Field. They're the reason of the revenues being there. So I know in a perfect world, everyone that deserves the money would make it and whatever. But if you're, if you're the top 1% at something in the world, I'm guessing you're going to make a lot of money. And that's the case with these players. Another kind of thing that we saw early on in the game is we saw Jordan have some rust. That was expected. He hasn't played since week 1, missed week 2 and week 3. Week 1 was a Friday night game, so it was extra early in the thing. So I don't remember exactly what he's been out, but it has to be close to 3 weeks without football. There was a lot of rust. You saw it early on. It seemed like he settled in as the game went on, which was good to see. Early on, a lot of low balls were thrown. It seemed like the offensive line wasn't always doing him the most favors. There was a lot of pressure, especially early on. It seemed like things kind of settled in as it went. He had 3 interceptions, of course. He wore the Favre jersey before the game, and he meant it. He's the first player for the Packers to throw 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions since Favre did it in 1999. So it was a very, very Favre-esque performance for him. 2 of which I don't really think were, solely on his shoulders. Defense made some great plays. We talked about the one to Watson. We talked about the one to Dobbs. The one that I think was kind of inexcusable was that bomb to Wicks. I think it was like in the either late third or the fourth quarter. I think that one was in the fourth quarter. I don't know if there's a miscommunication with Wicks of like, hey, we're going to just do a jump ball, 50-50 ball, because it seemed like Wicks kind of like gave up on the route or maybe slipped, but it kind of looked more like a punt than actually a deep ball. But he did seem to settle in as the game went. I know Viking fans are trying to say it's all garbage time, and that's what it was. I don't think that's the case. The Vikings were still obviously trying to stop the team, especially when they came within 2 points of the game or when they're making it a competitive game. The Vikings weren't just playing prevent the whole time. So Jordan Love settled in. They got a rhythm. They got momentum going. That's football for you. Momentum swings. Rhythms happen. They went up tempo, which I think helped really start producing on offense. And I hope, the next couple of weeks with the Rams, and then the Cardinals, I hope we can see that kind of rush shake out and we kind of go back to what we saw, kind of end of year last year. I unfortunately saw a lot of comments saying, Malik should have started. That the Packers would have won. Malik was 2-0. It's like, calm down, guys. Malik did a great job. He did his job while Jordan was out, but he also went against some very lesser opponents than a 4 or 3-0 Minnesota Viking team that had knocked out the Texans and the 49ers in the past 2 weeks. They're a much different team than the Colts or the Titans. Love Malik. Really happy to have him on our team. But I think if Jordan is 80%, you put Jordan out there, which it looked like the Packers did. You need to shake off that rust sometime. I don't think the outcome's any different if Malik's playing. I just don't think we make that bounce back into the game if Malik's playing. It is what it is. I told my wife before the game, I said, hey, if the Packers lose today, everyone's gonna, not everyone, but whatever, generalization, everyone's gonna be saying that Malik should have been starter, Malik. And unfortunately I saw that. It is what it is. I know, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. Narveson missing 2 kicks, pretty crucial kicks, 37 and a 48 or 49 yarder. Obviously things don't always shake out 1 for 1. If those get made, the game plans changed a lot, but it sure would have been nice not to leave 6 points off the board. Right. My thought I had after the game is there a deeper concern here? Is, Greg Joseph on Thursday Night Football went 5 of 5. He was the one that the Packers cut in favor of Narveson. He went 5 for 5 in his loss to the Cowboys, or in their loss to the Cowboys. The Giants lost to the Cowboys. And he had 3 kicks over 40 yards in that game, one of which was a 52-yarder. So you're wondering, okay, well, if he was struggling with success, and obviously it's a one game, right? Could be an outlier, could just be one of those days where he was on. But if he was struggling in Green Bay and he goes somewhere else and he's having a better performance, and and Anders Carlson struggling in Green Bay. We don't know what he's going to do. He's still a free agent. Is there a deeper issue here? Is the long snap not the greatest? Is the hold not the greatest? I don't know the answer to that. I'm just kind of speculating here. I did have a friend that was at the game, and he said that even in pregame warmups, it seemed like Narveson was all over the place. It was a little windy at the game. Maybe that played a factor in it, but just kind of speculating. Is there more of an issue here that Green Bay's not addressing or not figuring out, because it seems like it's been an issue now for a couple of years. There's obviously a lot, there's a lot here that we've talked about that was bad. A lot of stuff bad, right? There's also a lot that was good. A lot that was good despite the loss. There's a lot that was good. Xavier, 4 picks in 4 games. Now, the interception, probably a questionable one. I know I have a lot of fans, about Viking fans, crying in my comments 2 days later because of an interception in a game that they won. I personally can't imagine crying about a play in a game that I won, or that my team won multiple days later. But, teach their own. The refs reviewed it. It stood. Such is life. Welcome to being a football fan. But 4 picks in 4 games, absolutely beautiful. What an impact he's been making. I said it earlier yesterday. I think he's the best free agent signing we've had since Julius Peppers. Some might even argue since Woodson. I thought Julius Peppers was a huge signing, especially 2014. He had an outstanding year. I'm still going to stick with Julius Peppers. Some might say since Charles Woodson, but, teach their own. I just think Julius. Nixon had a great forced fumble off that edge rush right on the blind side of Darnold, with a nice recovery by Cooper. Wicks, despite the drops and the misses, had a hell of a game. I mean, he had 2 touchdowns, I believe. And really, I'm hoping he can continue to grow on that, because last year he was very crucial for us. It seemed like he was always getting open. So as long as we can kind of either get the ball where he's expecting it or have him hold on to those, it's gonna be. I think he's gonna be a huge weapon for us. And depending on what Watson's timeline is, we might see more Wicks. So hopefully he can kind of continue to grow into that and kind of get those drops behind him like he did last year. And then for all the throws that Love had, we also saw a lot of beautiful throws. That one where he was running to his right, hit Jaden right between 2 Viking defenders, avoiding the rush on the way. I mean, those are the throws of why the Packers think he's their guy, or why they know he's their guy, and why they paid him to be their guy. I will say it's kind of funny. You can really tell which fans are either younger or they've gotten so used to watching Rodgers because of the overreactions on, or maybe not overreactions. Interceptions suck, but I remember a time when you're watching Favre and if he's cocking back, you're like, this is either going to be like an incredible throw, or who knows what's going to happen here? Who's going to come down with it? And there's some of that with Love. Rodgers is obviously one of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history. You're not going to have that every quarterback you get. You hope that it's not as bad as Favre, but that was one of the things people were critical of Rodgers, was that at times he tried being too perfect, and he wasn't willing to make those mistakes when you got in that hole. We're seeing that with Love. In years past, if you're down big like that, especially heading into the 4th quarter, that feels like a game's done. That feels like in years past, that feels like the team's given up. There's no chance. See you next time. It's done. And to see the Packers rally, whether Viking fans want to say it's all garbage time and it's meaningless and whatever, I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. Maybe they went a little bit softer, sure. But they were sweating. They weren't just like, let's keep letting them, drive the field. Keep letting them have those 90-yard drives. That's not a problem. But I love to see that despite being down so big, they just kept doing it. They didn't care. Jordan's not trying to be perfect. He's like, I'm going to just try to make a play. Now, on the flip side, I think at times Jordan can try to get back all 28 points in one throw. And and it doesn't work like that. So there's that fine balance. But man, it's it's nice to see that team doesn't give up the fight, even if it means making some mistakes. You can't make omelets without breaking a few eggs. So that was that was fun to see. It's exciting to see this offense. Even when it was a struggle at first, it's still exciting to see what they can do. Another big win is the Packers have already surpassed the number of interceptions that they saw that they had in 2023 through 4 games in 2024. I don't know that we keep on that trajectory the whole year, but man, this defense talked a lot about turnovers, and they're backing it up. Really, really awesome to see. I mean, I've been rambling a lot here. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about the game. But it was definitely a roller coaster of a game. It felt better to I don't know. I guess it felt somewhat better to lose by 2 points. I think it plays a lot more of the what if games at that point. But Heather mentions it here. This team has a lot of fight in them, and that's 100% the case. They didn't just roll over and just give up on the game, which was really nice to see. Let's see here. Just kind of looking through some comments. I'm sorry. Yeah, Tony. I've seen this. Tony, I think he always hitting the nail on the head here. I've seen this tweet, regurgitated a bunch of times, but it's like, who would have thought it was harder to replace Mason Crosby than Rodgers? A lot of teams would be happy to have Jordan as their quarterback and pay him a lot of money, which is why the Packers did it. It's here we are looking to replace Mason Crosby. Okay, so Rogers said here, Narvison said there's no issue on holder snap, is all him. So I don't know. I feel like he'd probably be saying that regardless if there was, but it probably is more on his shoulders. So there's probably no argument there. It's just me kind of pondering this as I'm watching the game, just because we've seen a history of these misses, continuously missing. And we're going to kind of talk about it here a little bit more. Let's see here. Once again, though, I do want to say, like, hey, nice job, Vikings. You kicked our tail last year when you came to Lambeau. Hard fought win this year again at Lambeau. We'll see if the results happen in Minnesota the same way they did last year. Rivalry games are always fun. We're the black and blue division for a reason. It's always going to be a battle. It's always going to be fun. Very seldom is it a one-sided affair. So I love having the rivalry. I've talked about it numerous times. Brother and dad are Viking fans, so the rivalry is just fun. Rivalry is fun. It's not always fun when you're on this side of it, but it's a fun rivalry.